Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well. How about a bonus upload to end this Thursday evening off with? It is a very stormy and thundery evening in upstate New York, so I got nothing better to do. I figured, hey, let's share some encounters and videos. But before that, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They all were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative and exciting uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's bonus, shall we? Today's first encounter. My son and I had an experience with a Sasquatch. We were walking in an unpopular part of Patapsco Park in Maryland. At first we were searching for ruins of a town washed away in the 70s. He was 15 at the time and we were not having any luck. Right from the beginning I got the creeps. We were in the middle of nowhere forest and we came across an empty ball field with a metal bleacher and a shack that was open with dated equipment in there. As we were walking through the field, I felt scared, like there were eyes all around us. I didn't say a thing. About 30 minutes in, we realized we were in the wrong area. I was thinking, oh good, I failed my angry teenager again. He is going to forever think I cannot do anything right. We see a burned up pine tree, and I stop to take a picture. My son says, "This is lame, let's go." This is where things get real fast. We turned around, walked 20 steps. He picks up a stick and bangs it on a tree. I look down and see a deep footprint in the semi-dry mud. The tracks were not there when we walked up. We take pictures. I jump up and down to try and recreate the indentation, and I cannot do so. I then realize that we are being followed. Panic starts to set in. I declare a swift departure. I think to myself, is my child safer in front or behind me? That is a really crappy thing to have to think about. I push him in front of me. He has a machete and I have that stupid stick. We start to run and walk back. This is what we hear. Rustling alongside the path, my son sees an arm. We hear the sound of a jug. You know the sound that you hear when someone's blowing on a jug top? We see two different size prints, small ones and large ones. We run by what looks like bedding and thick, cool grass. We start to feel safe getting closer to our car. My son beats the stick against the tree. At that point, a giant roar scream erupts behind us. I grab the stick and scream at him, "Stop hitting the tree and run." We make it back. I'm repeating the words I wish that never happened to us. He's repeating, "That's the best thing that's ever happened to me." We get home. I'm virtually in hysterics with stress. My son said, "We have to tell someone." Oh man, I think I can't deny it. My son was with me. Thus began my contact with a Bigfoot specialist. I would say to my husband, if the Bigfoot people call, tell him I'll be back at 7:30. It was 2 years ago. I have thought about it a lot. I believe them to be real and not real at the same time. Somehow I think they are spirits of the forest. I also no longer care if people believe me or not. It happened, and I have nothing to gain from this. I also told the Bigfoot people to stop telling people to bang on trees. They truly hate it. Tonight's first video evidence is a Bigfoot in kind of a ravined area. It is very interesting. Give it a look-see. All right, guys. So that little video clip, I feel, is very compelling. I'm not going to stand by and say it's 100% legit, but compelling and interesting. I'm leaving it up to you guys for your opinions. Tonight's second encounter. When I was 15 years old back in 1973, we lived on an 80-acre farm in the Ozarks of northwest Arkansas. That back then would have been considered rural, but in reality it was only about 15 to 20 minutes from town. We raised poultry for a local company. We had a long chicken house. Beside the end in near the driveway was a yard light that had pegs on it, so when the bulb burned out, you could climb up the pole and change the bulb. I went outside at around 7 p.m. to feed our Alaskan husky, but unlike usual, he's not at the back door waiting. I heard him whining and followed the sound toward the edge of our house, where we had a shed and our root cellar. He was under the building, having dug out a spot that he would not come out when I called. That was when I smelled what I thought was a skunk. Figuring that it was what had run him under the shed, I stood up, and then I felt as if I was being watched. So I turned in a circle to see if there was a visible skunk. As I faced toward the chicken house, I saw a tall creature with long reddish hair all over its body. Its face was human-like and covered with a long beard and long red hair. I could see it clearly as it stood underneath the light, which later my mom measured by the pegs I could see that night, and the creature was about 8 feet tall. I froze in shock. I knew what I was looking at. Never a doubt, and it was looking at me. I glanced back toward the house to see how far I was from the back door, and then back to it. It was holding something in its hand that was nearest to the poultry house, and I noticed that it was a dead chicken. The next day we saw where the screen on the poultry house had been pulled back. This creature and I stood facing each other for a few seconds, which felt like hours, and then it turned and gently walked 10 feet to the road gate that enclosed our field, stepped over it. At 15, I was about 4'11", and knew the top of the gate was at my eye level. After it crossed over, it took a few steps and then looked back at me and then just kind of walked or loped into the field, and I couldn't see it anymore in the dark. But being a girl, that look back made me scream bloody murder. My mom came out with the shotgun, as we had seen a panther a few weeks before by our pond, and she had placed the gun by the back door. After a few moments of jabbering nonsense, I was able to tell her what I had seen. That was when she said she had heard something scratching on the screen the night before. I was relieved to have been believed, but refused to feed the dog or go out after dark anymore. Later, we learned a neighbor whose property backed up to ours also saw the creature. After growing up, I often think back to that experience and what it felt like. I was shocked and confused at what I was seeing. I think it may have just been in shock seeing me, but oddly at the time, up until it turned and looked back at me, I never felt fear. I did not sense danger, and when it looked at me, I didn't see anything in its eyes that were dark. But I never forgot the exact details to this day. I don't believe they are monkeys or gorillas. It was far too human-like and intelligent-looking. And just like other animals, when their territory is encroached upon, they'll try and scare you off. I think people looking for them have less of a chance to see them than the ones who are not looking for them do. Tonight's second video clip is some very strange footage of what appears to be possibly a crawler or some sort of, quotes, alien. You guys decide. All right, guys, that was the second video. I'm really not sure what it was, but it could have been a crawler, could have been some kind of alien. You guys decide. On to tonight's final encounter. My dad shared a lot of experiences of what happened to him throughout his life. One in particular took place somewhere in the 60s or maybe 70s, long before I was born. I'll do my best to recall what he relayed to me. Unfortunately, I can't ask him, as he died 9 years ago. It was the summertime, somewhere in Northern California. It was some sort of campsite, and it was near a big lake. I honestly don't remember the name. I was a little girl when he shared this with me. He was camping with a few of his brothers. I believe he told me that they only had a truck to camp in, so they used the back of the truck bed to have two sleep there, and my dad slept in the front seat. Well, he and my uncles were sleeping when my dad was awoken to a foul odor. He wasn't sure what it was because he hadn't smelled that before, as he and my uncles were very outdoorsy and camped all the time. He had the window cracked open, and that's why he was able to smell it. He said that when he woke up, he saw this huge, hairy, man-like creature walking up to the truck. He didn't know what it was, but suspected that it may have been a Sasquatch. When it reached the truck, he said he started to sniff through the cracked part of the window. If I remember correctly, it startled my uncles as well, but they were pretty scared and tried their best not to move because they were more out in the open than my dad. Well, all three of them pretty much hid in their sleeping bags, and when this creature realized that they were in there, it started to make this aggressive grunting sound and began shaking the truck. It was not a small truck, so this thing had a good amount of strength to it. My dad said he was doing that for quite some time, but once it realized that they weren't going to react or even move, it walked off. Once it was gone from the truck, they could hear it in the distance, some loud screams and such. They believed it was angry, but didn't do anything else physical, thank God. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed tonight's end of the night bonus upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you all. Guys, I'd really like to thank you for supporting this channel. Your support makes this channel special, makes it what it is, and it is appreciated. With that, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. We know these creatures are real. Please keep an eye on your children, your pets, your loved ones, and God bless you all.